So we kind of just wanted to have a conversation around kind of like Black Lives Matter, race, diversity, but in a way that is in a Northern Irish context rather than everything being filtered through an English or an American context. I feel like there isn't really like any descriptive things in Northern Ireland. There's a lot of people of colour here and Irish people feel here. So, but I wanted to be relaxed and just share your experiences rather than thinking that we need to be like super political or feel like we need to say certain buzzwords to sound smart. Like I just wanted to be like relaxing and honest and have a conversation.
Okay.
So if maybe everyone just wants to introduce themselves individually, just for people to hear whoever's watching this.
Yeah. Should I start? My name is Natasha Latcham. I am originally from Antigua in the Caribbean, but I've been living in Northern Ireland for the past 7 years or so. And I primarily work in the community sector, but I'm a journalist by training, and that's me.
I'll go next. I'm Karishma. I am originally from India. I was born in India and I came here in 1996. I've lived here ever since, moved to London briefly and then came back again because I loved it so much. And I do design, podcasting and a bunch of other things as well. So I fill my day fully.
I'm Liam, originally from South Armagh, which seems like a different country to Belfast, but it's only an hour down the road. But I studied up here in university, did business and marketing. I'm now working for Cafe O, who supplied the coffee today. I'm head of coffee there and head of marketing as well, so I look after the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, branding, marketing side of things, along with training baristas, trying to recruit new baristas as well, and interacting with the roaster from Copenhagen as well. So that's me.
Yeah, and then myself. Yeah, so my name is Esther McGann. I'm half Irish, half Ugandan. I have created a production company called Creating Space, and then I also work part-time for big studios as well. What has racism looked like to you in Northern Ireland? Like you said, you've been here for 7 years, you've grown up here, you're from Armagh and like moved to Belfast, so like maybe we'll start with you, Krishna. What's racism been like here for you, or your experience growing up?
So I was born in India, so I came here in 1996, and when I first moved here there weren't as many people from other places. So even in primary school and in secondary school and all, I would be maybe one of a few people. And even if our like secondary school was very mixed, it was still not that many people from different places, but now it's completely different to what it used to be. I suppose the thing with me is that, you know, I feel like I'm a bit caught in between things at the moment because I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm brown. So I've experienced racism, but of a different kind. And actually what happened is the big turning point for me was actually after 9/11, because that's when people suddenly started to become very Islamophobic. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a Muslim, but people look at me and say, right, brown person, Muslim, mm-hmm. Islamophobia. And they treat me with the same way they would treat somebody that they were being Islamophobic to as well. That people haven't necessarily been upfront with their racism. They haven't necessarily always come up to me and said, oh, I don't like you because you're brown. But they might like, you know, pass me over for something, for somebody else to take that place. Or, for example, in school I was in a team, in a netball team, and nobody would pass to me, even though I was on the A team in school, mm-hmm. for no good reason. I'm the only brown person on the team. Mm-hmm. So things like that. Certain teachers as well, like you could tell that, you know, the reason they were doing things was because of racism, but they'd never, you know, come out and say like, I'm doing this because, you know, you're brown. Never say something like that. Mm-hmm. I have experienced some sort of like physical racism. People have thrown stones at me and called me a Paki C word as well. Mm-hmm. And I was like, am I allowed to swear on this? Yeah. Or not? Just like people called me a beep. But this was me just minding my own business, going about my day, and like a group of like young, well, maybe 16-year-old teenagers like shouted this at me, and when I stood up for myself they threw rocks at me. So stuff like that's happened. People have called me like a Paki before as well, and I have experienced racism in that way, but a lot of it, I think most of the racism overall that I've experienced has been microaggressions, under the radar, that kind of stuff that you know why that's happened. But if you ever said that, you know, you're doing this because you're being racist, then people would be like, oh no, you're being sensitive, but this isn't real, and people totally gaslight you about it. Yeah. So I found that to be really challenging, and that's been my main experience here, that people have been mainly under the radar with it, and it's happening, but you don't know how to speak up about it because no one's going to listen, or people will dismiss it.
Dismiss you.
Yeah, so that's how I found it so far.
Yeah, because it's hard whenever you're having to kind of prove that racism exists, or like that was a racist thing to do. And I think, yeah, it's very, very challenging. And gaslighting is like the worst thing because it makes you feel.
It is.
insane.
Yeah, it feels like, am I overreacting about this? But then you kind of, but you know that that's why they're doing it, and you know that that's what's happened. But it's very difficult to stand up and say to somebody, especially if you're the only, person of color in the room, if you're the only kind of minority in the room, to say, this is why you're doing this, and stand up for yourself. It's very challenging. And I think actually this year is maybe changing that a bit, because suddenly everyone, even if they don't believe it, feel the obligation to now start being a bit more, careful about what they're doing, or listen up more.
Yeah.
So if at all, like, that's changed, something, I think that's a good thing as well.
I think a part of that probably is due to conditioning as well. Sometimes I don't think some people are even aware that what they're saying or what they're doing is racist, because they've just been conditioned over the years to think that it is okay to say and do certain things, and only when you point it out or challenge it would they understand. But then sometimes you find the first thing they go to is defense. Well, sure, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But as you said, now I think a lot of people are becoming more woke, for lack of a better term, and are understanding that certain things are problematic, and perhaps I should, really think about why I'm saying this or why I'm doing that or behaving a particular type of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your experience with that?
Similar to Krishna, I can't really say I've experienced, personally, any real overt or physical racism. Most of what I've experienced is some microaggression. However, I used to work with the African and Caribbean Support Organization of Northern Ireland, which is a charity, and we used to get a lot of phone calls in from refugees and asylum seekers, and just people who've migrated here who are black, whether they're African or Caribbean, and they've been on workplaces where they've been discriminated against and gaslighted. They've been told, oh, this is a particular reason why we're doing this, but there was no evidence for that, and that person was the only person that was being targeted in that particular type of way. I have friends who are from Africa and from the Caribbean who are like nurses in the NHS. One person who's also related to myself and have experienced being called the N-word, on the ward, taking care of someone who came in with an accident, and she was like trying to take care of the person spat in her face and called her the N-word, she's biracial and things like that. I've had parents call us on the phone and say, I have a mixed race child and they're experiencing bullying at school. I've spoken to the teacher X amount of times, nothing is being resolved, they just keep dismissing it. I'm tired of going there, what can we do? And then we have to signpost them to, places. And these were calls that were happening like weekly, So I have been exposed to it in that aspect as well. And just even being in front of my front garden, like 2 summers ago, taking care of my flowers, and a group of teenagers passed, and I know that they saw me there, but they were having a conversation loud enough for me to hear, and they were saying, oh, what do you think would happen if I said the beep beep, the N-word? I guess looking for a reaction from me, but I just continued doing what I was doing. So things like that, people will try these little microaggressions, as we like to call them, to get a reaction out of you, or because they think it's funny, or for whatever reason. So it does exist, but luckily it's not like on the levels of like in the US where people are like, shooting us down in the street, so yeah.
Well, surprise.
Your awareness of racism.
Surprise, I've never personally experienced racism in Northern Ireland, being a white man, but I suppose it's probably a helpful perspective to come from the other side. So, kind of what I notice at times within myself and at times observing other people from working in the hospitality industry, there's a certain, maybe a little less tolerance, kind of either language barriers or your appearance or something like that. So even, city centre tourists and stuff like that come in for a coffee and, they might not have much English. And it was so strange for me, I'm not saying that anybody else did it, let's keep it accountable here. I experienced it within myself of just that little spark of less tolerance for people and having to repeat myself a little more, and I'm like, that's not good. That's not good. So I noticed it with other people as well, obviously, but if I talk from personal experience, I'm like, okay, that kind of needs to change. You know, this is my job, to be hospitable to other people, serve them coffee, no matter what way they look, how they speak, or whatever. So then I kind of went from this end to this end. I was like, okay, let me be extra nice to anybody who doesn't look like me. I'm like, okay, let's try that. It's like, that's not really helpful either. So like I'm basically othering them from the other side of being overly generous, overly kind. So I'm like, right, okay, there needs to be some sort of balance here of going, right, no, let me work it a wee bit more, let me work with myself, let me come to the middle and go, right, no, everybody's a human being, and yes, with different skin colours, different personalities, all this, but ultimately we're all human. So I'm kind of coming back round again, and then now I'm coming from, okay, right, I can sit here with you three from different ethnicities and, you know, talk to you as individuals. Like back to what you said of, like, you know, black women are sort of overly sexualized from tarring everybody with the same brush, but it completely disregards you as a human being. You have a different personality than someone else. So I've kind of come full circle on that and going, like, observing it in other people and then trying not to judge them for being where I was maybe 2 years ago, kind of thing. But rather speak to people as an individual and set an example for anybody else. But yeah, and I think that's the main thing for me. There just seems to be a little less tolerance for people who speak a little different, who look a little different, and that it's been kind of accepted that that's okay. And that's the start of a dehumanization process. And I don't know if either of you guys have experienced that with shops or coffee shops, restaurants, anything else, but it's something, So it's something that I've definitely noticed, and it's like that's the beginning of, you know, that little tolerance is the beginning of you don't even count anymore, and it's just back. But it's like, for me, that's a real sort of responsibility, and I see as a goal for me to set that example. As, you know, yes, I know I'm an individual, but within this society terms, I'm the straight white male who seems to be kind of at the
There is a fourth person in this conversation.
I apologize.
Yeah, so like busy at the top of the privilege scale, which is fair enough. And you know, it's again, I'm all of kind of taking people as the individual, but like I'm happy enough. That's the box I'm in. I wouldn't change it, obviously, but I can't control being put in that box. Nobody can control that, but what I can control is how I operate within that box. So what example am I setting for other white males to, you know, call out this sort of stuff, or work on yourself, take responsibility for these kind of things rather than just pass it off, because it always just seems to be that, you know, we're the last ones to get these kind of things. We're the last ones to understand that there's racism happening. We're the last ones to understand that women don't feel comfortable walking on the same side of the street as us at night time. We don't understand we can go out anytime we want and not even be in our heads that, you know, someone might walk too close to me, someone might shout across the road to me. It's not even in our minds. No, that's why we can't understand. We've never had to face those kind of barriers or take those precautions of, you know, text me when you're home. For women, like you be in contact with your friends, please let me know when you're home, blah blah blah. It's like, no, we have this privilege of going out whenever we want, saying whatever we want, and I think it's time to take some accountability for it and set that kind of example. That's for me.
I think like what you said about that intolerance of how people speak and that kind of thing, that's very interesting, because I actually experienced something like that, which was last year, and this was actually from like a health professional. So I'd gone in to get my regular medication and stuff like that, and this person was talking to me as though she could not understand what I was speaking. And like, you hear me right now, it's pretty clear actually. Do you know, English is my main language that I'm speaking at the moment.
It's probably clearer than me.
Well, I wasn't going to say. But yeah, she was just sort of like squinting her eyes, coming closer to my face, like, what are you saying? And like really kind of like in my face about this. And this was like for some strong medication that I was, on regularly, that I was having to take. And she was almost questioning me as though I was there to illegally request medication. It was almost like, what's this? Like asking me loads of questions, even though everything was on her system in front of her. It was just this questioning of, are you actually meant to be here? Are you actually meant to be getting this? And also pretending that she didn't understand exactly what I was saying. Even though I'm pretty clear at speaking, she was just like squinting at me. And it really annoyed me. And I actually said something. That was like one of the few times I've actually brought it up. And I was like, why are you speaking to me like this? Is it because I'm brown? And I actually said that.
Good for you.
I was like, oh no. But yeah, I actually brought it up, and then I just felt really like, I felt weird about bringing it up, but then I also felt really embarrassed afterwards for bringing it up. And I was like, should I have brought this up? But that's
exactly what that is. That's the brown burden or the black burden. Because you, as a person who sometimes feel oppressed, you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable by mentioning the thing. So you rather suffer the discomfort and feeling disrespected or belittled, because if I say it, they're going to feel a particular type of way, and it's a burden that we carry. But sometimes maybe we should say something to make them aware. Hello, check yourself. You're actually saying or doing something that's not acceptable right now. You know,
kind of reiterates that message to yourself of going, I'm not going to cause any fuss here. Let me just
that as
let me just roll back. Let me
just
keep myself small, and you do that enough times, and you're invisible.
Exactly, and that's the emotional burden that we talk about in trying to challenge things on social media or with others. Because if you deal with this every day, and we deal with it every day to some degree, and then you get on social media and people are like, but sure, there's no racism here, and this and all that matter, and you're just like, I'm done for the day. It's too much. I can't deal with this every day in the shops and on the bus and then come home and do this online, and it just becomes, So
yeah.
That's something I definitely really struggle with. Like, I find it really difficult to call it out. I find it difficult. I feel like I've got a complex of people just staring at me. Like, that's my biggest thing that drives me insane. That I actually have to stop focusing on because it's like it's something that I just think about all the time, and it actually makes me like, it's almost like on the other side of being super paranoid that if I'm walking down the street, people are staring at me or whatever. But I really, really am trying to break out of being small. And take up space. Like, and it's funny because all my features are so big. Big hair, big, eyes, and big body, and there's all these things are, I should be sitting up tall, and it's like, it's really trying to break out of that smallness to make other people feel comfortable, like you're saying, and to like stop assimilating to what the culture is, and just be myself. But I find it so difficult. And
you're thinking, if I speak up, if I say something, if I show some anger, then sure, they're going to put me into the stereotype. Or sure, there goes the black angry woman, or there goes the this, or there goes the that, or you're just, playing the race card, so you don't want to get into that whole thing. So you're just like, I'll let this one go. But you can only let things go so many times before you explode. And it's like, nothing's wrong with therapy, but it's like, either you're going to send me to therapy, or you're going to take what I'm going to tell you right now, And so sometimes you just have to let it out and let people know. And hopefully, when you say something, it doesn't have to be aggressively, You can say something, and hopefully that will cause the other person to think next time for them to say it or do something to somebody else. They will stop and pause and say, sure, last time I did this, it didn't go over too well, so maybe I shouldn't do that, We can only hope.
Yeah, I think the difference here with sort of what we talked about at the start with America, there's so many tangible examples of racism, with the police brutality and everything else. But over here, it's not as tangible.
No.
So it's okay. It's kind of accepted to kind of dismiss it a little bit, or going, it's not as bad as over there, blah blah blah. But I think like again, when you say, you know, racism happens here, someone will automatically go, okay, right, give me 5 examples.
Yeah.
You know, give me what happened, when were you called this, when did that happen? But because we haven't got the literal tangible examples, people look for these boxes of going, okay, right, give me these examples of what happened, and then if there's not, then, you know, it doesn't exist. And then that, for me, that's where the kind of 10 steps to solve racism thing came on Instagram, because people want these steps, like, you know, white people or anybody else who's sort of uneducated about it, just go, let me go study. Right, okay, do this. Talk to my black friends, okay. Apologize on Instagram.
People think that's the work.
But then it's like, okay, I've done my 10 steps. What do you want now? I'm not a racist anymore.
You know, racist here that I could say.
That's the thing. It's not enough to not be racist. We have to be anti-racist. We have to be not for racist. You can't just say, well, I don't say the N-word, or I don't say go back to where you come from. I don't say this, so I'm a good person. I'm not racist. You have to be able to hold the people who do those things accountable and say that's wrong, or you shouldn't say that to that person. If someone was to call you the P word on the street, I'd be like, hey, you're like what's wrong with you? That's how you be an ally. That's how you fight against racism. Not just say, well, I'm not doing anything, so I'm okay. You know?
I just think we like to cover our own backs. So like, if you do give me those 10 steps and I complete these 10 steps, it's like, there you go. Let me. But and then for me, I was like, okay, right. If I know Esther, you know, I know a black person. It's like, okay, that's my work done. You know, I interact. I interact with these people. No, I'm good. I'm good. But then I was like, okay, no, Esther isn't the work. You know, I have to. If I'm talking to Esther and she's telling me what she's going through, whatever, it's like, okay, I can take that and go, right. You know, obviously there's other people experiencing this, but it can't just be that. It has to be me going around and actively, you know, looking for these things within, you know, my day-to-day life and going, like, as you say, keep holding people to kind of calling it out. It's like I can't just say like, oh yeah, I've got a couple of black friends. I know a mixed race girl as well, so it's like
I've got a friend.
You know, cultures. You know, it's like it's not. That's like, again, that's a box ticking exercise. And then when I clocked that in my head, I was like, no, something's different. You know, but you know that's the way a lot of people operate, because we like to. We're so wired for the 9 to 5 thing, and you know, ticking these tasks off every time. But as I said at the start, it's a completely different, complex issue. We can't. You know, humans aren't these. They're not supposed to be these machines. We're completely individual. You know, there's no 2 people the same. We're individuals, and you know, we're complex, and we have to take everybody as
but
equal.
I think that's where the issue is for me anyway. Is that as people of colour in general, all put in the same group. So you're from Caribbean. I'm from Uganda, Ireland. Grew up in Egypt. So like my experience of being a black person, as they label me, is so different from Africans, so different from people who live here, and I think that's the issue of like we're all so complex. Your experience and your experience and your experience, we're all so complex, but we're just like pushed into this one box. Takes me to my next question. Like, how do you feel about all the labeling of different things? Like, how do you react to it? Like brown, white.
I think it's categorizing people, isn't it? Because like I think it's actually creating more divisions in a way. So I'd actually not really ever referred to myself as a brown person until this year. I just kind of thought, like, you know, yes, my background is Indian, both my parents are Indian, and then I've been brought up here. So like the Indian people are telling me I'm not Indian, which is interesting. So my cousin is like, yeah, you're not Indian, you're Irish. And then of course, like, people don't see me as being, you know, Northern Irish because I'm not white. So it's kind of like, then what am I? Because no one's wanting me to be part of their culture. So this year I just was like referring to myself as brown, and it's the first time I've ever actually done that. But I don't know if that's actually then saying, okay, I'm brown, you're white, you're black, and it's kind of separating us all out a bit more. So I don't know if it's a good thing or not.
I'm not sure how I feel about, well, I think there's labels and then there's identities. Am I what you call me, or am I who I think I am? That's how let me identify myself, and I'll let you identify yourself. I'm not going to try to identify you for you, because you know you more than I could ever know you. So if you tell me, my name is Krishna, I'm Indian heritage, but I'm Northern Irish, I'll just take you as this is what it is. But we know that we don't live in a perfect world, and people just look at you and try to tell you what they think you are because they're putting you in a box. But I do understand categorization in certain things, because an apple is an apple and can never be an orange. So you do need to have some sort of, you do understand why there are some sort of labels. But in terms of labeling people, I think allow people to identify themselves, and you just call them what they call themselves, and don't try to force your labels on people. And some people are multi-layered. I can be many things and still be one thing. You know, I identified before I moved to Northern Ireland. I just identified myself as Antiguan, which is the island in the Caribbean I'm from. And everyone went, well, I'm black, like duh. You know? I said, oh, I'm Antiguan, I'm an Aquarius, I like walks on the beach, I like this. You know?
It sounds like a dating profile.
Yeah. So now I came here and I'm like, okay, I'm a part of the African and Caribbean community, I'm black, I'm this and that, and I am all those things, but I'm just Natasha. You know, so that's how I view it. I view you as you identify yourself. That's just how I would see you.
Maybe if we start out with people just kind of introducing themselves, where they're from, and what they do. So you want to start?
Do you need me to talk at the
Just like a name, okay.
So yeah, I'm Lacey Stewart. I am a fashion portrait photographer. I'm based in Belfast, well, near Belfast in Northern Ireland.
I'm Linda Habwa, and I'm from Ballymena originally, and I work for a mission organisation.
I'm Christine James. I'm from Belfast, live just outside Belfast now, and I run Belfast by Week and other creative projects.
I am Suleiman Abdullahi. I was born in Somalia, and I've been here in Belfast the last 9 years, and work as a freelance interpreting translationist. But I also run a charity called Horn of Africa because they deny.
Very good. So I'm going to just get into the big topic. So how did everyone receive, like obviously the Black Lives Matter movement has been going on for so many years, but like it seems like it's only erupted kind of globally and people's awareness of it, and then obviously there's protests here and kind of people being aware of it. So how did everyone receive the Black Lives Matter protest movement that happened a couple months ago?
I think personally, I think it was obviously really sad and I guess a bit angry. I think what surprised me about it was that nobody really wanted to talk about it here. There was no, oh Linda, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? My husband's from West Africa, so I don't know if that's we don't want to go there with that family, or if people just didn't talk about it in general. I don't know. But there's been a lot of discussion within my family and my extended family, because we're all really personally impacted and offended and hurt by everything that we've seen going on.
I think obviously like the main thing was when George Floyd was murdered, it was like just like pure anger and frustration that it's like just anger and frustration that it happened and it's still happening. We're still protesting, we're still talking about it, we're still not talking about it in some cases. Like some people just shy away from it, but like the anger that came with it, just like I can't even describe, because I've never experienced that in my life, and it wasn't even something that was so personal. And even imagine like what the families of these people are going through is like you can't even comprehend it. So yeah, it was just pure anger, and it still is anger. And some people would say, "Why are you so angry?" It's like, why would I not be angry? Why are you not angry?
Yes.
So yeah, just that's one word I would say, just anger. And that might not be the best approach for some people, but like that's all I keep thinking is I'm so angry.
And did you find people were like approaching you or messaging you like that all, apologize? Like I got people sending me messages of apology, being like, I'm so sorry racism happens, and it's like, what do you want me to do with that? Like it was so strange and uncomfortable, because it's like, as a nation of black people and in general, it's like we're navigating this as well as other people, but it was like almost like messages.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring this out as well. Did you have that experience?
Yeah, like I can't even describe the messages I got. I got messages of apology, messages from people asking me to validate their Instagram posts before they post them. I had people. I've never been so busy on my photography Instagram than people message me asking for advice, and I'm like, it's all out there. You're literally draining it out of me. And even to like have those messages in your inbox is so exhausting. And you're like, why can't I be this busy asking for me to photograph you? Like, you know, it's like
I'll validate you if you answer, if you get your
photo.
photo.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just exhausting. Like the messages are just like, do you not see what's happening? Do you not want to just do it by yourself rather than asking black people to help you do that? So I don't know, it's just. And it's still happening, like, but yeah, very strange.
Actually, it's not first thing I saw, but it's not this what happened in Northern Ireland or whenever in other contexts is not. My age might be showing me I saw so many things happening in the past, and I don't think that it's something new happening, but we didn't. The camera was not caught before the way it caught, and that is the significance of so many young people who have never experienced and see what is going in the world. And we should not look for only in my experience in that we see what happened in racial inequality and racial police brutality, whatever we call in America. And we always think about in someone, but I believe there is, in the UK and in Northern Ireland, it's not innocent, in my opinion, that we have some sort of a racial bias and also racial institutional racism and all that things exist. But at the same time, that I have I understand the young people why they're angry, why they're frustrated, and also a lot of people, also local and Northern Irish people, also very angry. Some people send me messages, what can we do for you? Even we want to donate you money, your community, what would you do with the money? And we support Black Lives Matters. I'm not a member. I've never been a member of Black Lives Matters, but I believe that as a human being, we are all equal, and that inequality was created by other human beings and oppress others. So we believe that to be think about the bigger picture, how we could help those young people who are frustrated and understand the historic incidents that took place.
Oh, so many good answers. So Black Lives Matter movement in Northern Ireland. Obviously I'm a white Northern Irish person, but I have spent some time living in Africa, and I have had some close friends who are African, so I suppose I have more awareness of it. So I think it's interesting. I think obviously it's devastating what happened, but I think it's very interesting that it's only now that people are sort of realising that there even is an issue. And I think it's also interesting you said about people not wanting to talk to you, because all my family that I told I was doing this today were like, why are they inviting you? And I was thinking that's part of the issue, isn't it? Because we don't have that open conversation with different parts of the community, and I think I do a lot of work around gender in business. I think there's a lot of similarities with, I think a lot of people here don't actually think that racism exists. And I think the problem with that then is they don't even listen to these conversations because they think it's a problem that's been solved.
Yes.
So I don't know, and I also think it's great the Black Lives Matter movement, but I also see your issues, and I've Esther and I chatted about this thing on Instagram, and is it just a kind of a fashionable thing now? And I think there's a danger in that as well, where's the real kind of dialogue and the work on the ground, not just sticking something up on Instagram to get people to like it. And I appreciate it must be really frustrating because where are people apologising to you now, not apologising to you in any other? I don't know, it just seems really strange, doesn't it, to be like, I don't know. Yeah. But then maybe it's a bit like the Me Too movement, and from a few years ago, and there's been a perfect storm of things that have suddenly brought it, and maybe it's not ideal, but at least it'll maybe get people thinking.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the environment thing that it took David Attenborough to talk about plastic on a Sunday night to get people in rural parts of Northern Ireland to realise they maybe shouldn't be consuming millions of plastic. I don't know, it's very strange here because we're so disconnected, and like my partner's family are from the country and they're even more disconnected, and I just don't think people even that I would talk to think it's an issue, which is, I don't know, strange, sad, I don't know, and I don't know what the answer is.
What does racism look like in Northern Ireland? And I know that you have mixed race children and you're going to Ireland as well. What's that been like? Tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, well, I went to Nigeria, I don't know, nearly 2 decades ago, and lived there for 15 years, and met my husband there and lived there for years. And then we came back to Northern Ireland I've been back 5 years with the kids, and my husband came a year after us. You know what that's all about, immigration issues. So we've been here. So it's been really interesting because I've lived in my husband's culture for all those years, and now we're on this new journey of trying to live in this culture. So that's been very interesting. I guess I worry more about my kids, of course. My husband kind of, he looks after himself, and he, I guess when we think about it, there's sort of a racism that happens every day. They sort of, that interaction of somebody said something you can't quite believe they've said it in front of you or out loud to your face, and you realise they've no idea what they've just said. There's that, and that's what my children, I guess, are experiencing most of all at the moment. The really fearsome stuff is all the other stuff under the surface that no one says, but that everybody knows is there. The different opportunities, the different expectations. My kids will say, "Why are they staring at me?" And all those things that you don't want your children to experience. You just want them to be able to be here, and the way people ask, "Where are you from?" in a way that doesn't mean, are you from Ballymena or from Belfast? It means something else, and I'm going around in circles now. So I guess what I'm saying is we've experienced racism in the inappropriate things that people say to us, and the inappropriate things people say about my kids, or poking their fingers into my daughter's hair, and those things that are just like, why are you doing that? But I guess the stuff that scares me more is how the institutionalized racism will affect them for their futures. Because you can help them be resilient, you can help them, speak out for themselves or whatever. But that other stuff is so insidious, and you just don't know how to tackle it. And lots of people don't believe it's real. They think you've got a chip on your shoulder.
What's your experience, your idea of racism?
Where to start, really?
Big questions.
Yeah. I mean, it started before I could even talk. My mum is white, and she would say things that maybe people said to her when she was walking around with me as a baby. And again, if she was walking around with my dad, I'm sure there wasn't as many questions because we'd be like, black, white,
yes.
Whereas sometimes we'd be like, is she adopted?
Yes.
It's can you all just put two and two together?
Yes.
And then obviously growing up through primary school, you hear these things you don't even know the words of, or the meanings of, sorry. The fact that these children know the words, but they're still excused. The first experience that I can remember is when I think I was maybe about P4, P5, so what age would I have been? About 7?
You're a bit older than me. I'm at P7 or 11, so what's that?
So P4, 8?
Yeah.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
I might have even been younger, but I was walking across the playground, and there was this boy that always bullied me. It was always about me being black, and I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but he basically just was like, black bitch. And I'm like, and I was just on my own, and I went home and I told my mum, and she tried to deal with it with the school. and apparently they just said, you probably didn't mean it that way, kids don't see colour. And that was something that I've always heard, is kids don't see colour. Well, if he didn't see colour, he wouldn't call me black. He'd made the choice to do that. And it's like, where do these kids learn that? And the fact that I wasn't even, you're absolutely distraught here, not as a child, but the fact that you're showing no sympathy as a child is so, it's so important to nurture. Sorry. It's so important to nurture children and show them that there's people with authority that care.
Yes.
And the fact that then came up even being, I think I was maybe about 18, and I was walking with my friend, she's black, and the fact that there was teachers then and there was policemen now that don't listen, that they never, we're never the victims of something. It's always, you have a chip on your shoulder, it's not their problem. Why did you feel the need to bring it up to us? And the fact that a man could literally growl at us and tell his dog to get us and to attack us, and the fact that we told the police and they were like, oh no, we've met this man, he's so lovely, he taught kids in India. Oh, okay. Oh. This man literally had so much anger in his eyes that he wanted his dog, a black Labrador by the way, to attack us. And you could see the anger in his eyes. He didn't like us, never talked to us. We just wanted to say hello to the dog. But he growled at us. And the fact that the police excused him and shown us no sympathy, the fact that is built literally in a system from teachers to policemen, is that just sums it up. Who in authority is going to protect black kids, black men, black women, literally just black people, full stop, who is protecting or even showing any sympathy? It's just people that you're sitting around and talking to, and even at that, then you're met with, I'm sure you didn't mean like that. So who is actually going to show pure empathy and sympathy for black people? And the fact that it still has to be taught is mind-blowing. So, sorry, I'm just angry.
It's okay to be angry and sometimes cry, because of that is the nature of the emotion you carry, and you still remember when you were before and up to date. So I think that it's a trauma. I believe that which you express and that trauma is natural, that when the person experience that something very awful and that carry on all your life, but at the same time self-caring is key to try yourself, look for counseling and all the tools you can use to and I think this is one opportunity where you can express for your anger and feel also comfortable to share. One of the self-healing I do when I'm angry is actually I cry, and I don't shy to cry when I remember things happen to me. But at the same time, I feel relief when I cry.
I think it's so important, because I think having these conversations people have very little tolerance for, and I think as well, it's very, if people aren't receiving the information, like you're saying, either gaslighting you or you're completely shocked by everything, you're editing yourself and you can't fully relax, and you're almost diluting the experience because you want to appease other people. And I find that I do that all the time, and that's why I felt it was really important to have these conversations led by me or people of colour, and invite people in so that we can discuss these issues. It's very traumatic, and I appreciate you sharing your stories, but I think the issue is that there's no spaces to discuss it fully. Where you can just kind of be like, this is where I'm at, this is how
I do think people need to hear that in a non-sensationalist way. I know Nolan did it a couple of times, but it was very dramatic, almost in a way that puts people that need to listen to it off, and then they just switch off completely. Whereas, I don't know,
But my answer to that question in terms of the experience of racism as I've been only 9 years in Northern Ireland, and I've been in Europe for almost since 1996, I think 24 years. And I faced so many times of racial discrimination and in different levels. So I relate to the issue of the teachers and the policemen disbelieving you, even recognizing that happened to you. Whenever you try to complain that I have been investigated by the police. When I first had incident in 2012 in Northern Ireland, I called the police and report to the person who filed, and I said there is a CCTV and this person attacked me in the ATM machine, and he said to me that you're a black man, a rapist, you rape our women and all that things. And I never raped anyone. I didn't. Yes, of course I'm a black man. I'm not denying my color, but at the same time, when I report to the police, what shocks me was that policeman called me and said, "Why did this man attack you? Why he say to you what he said to you? And what do you do for a living? What is the relationship with this organization?" So just he researched and just checking on me instead of addressing the incident.
It's like you were being questioned.
So the point I want to just to make is that the racism is a very a lot of people are not aware what they're doing. Even those authorities, those people who have the power, when they try to protect those vulnerable individuals and who cannot speak on them. So I speak up all the time and share what I believe, that if there is institutional racism occur, I told them and I say this is what happened to me, and this is what happened on daily occurrence to a lot of people, the people we call the minority, and that even the word itself is so bad, and that you are not significant. So you call this minority, and if you are minor, then you are not important. So this bigotry, I would not say Northern Irish are racist, all of them. Majority of Northern Irish are really not racist. They are very good people. But the minority who are racist take over the majority. And when you're silent, it's complicity in terms of the... So the majority of people who are silent are complementing the racist, and the institutions are not fair. So therefore, it is required to get the majority to awake if they are really not racist and stand by those victims.